Hello, this is Niev with the Rainbow Cauldron, and today is February 10th, 2014, and the moon is waxing and in Cancer. Um, all right, and this is your daily general tarot reading for today. The first card I put down will be from the Druid Animal Oracle deck, and it will represent the general idea, theme of the day, something to think about. And the four cards surrounding it will be from the Ghosts and Spirits Tarot deck. And the first card will represent a morning time, sunrise, and then the next card will be noon, and then sunset, nighttime, and finally nighttime. This is actually early evening, and then nighttime. Okay, so the first card is the Stag. Very majestic. Okay, the Stag really. Well, the first thing it makes me think of as a pagan is it makes me think of the god, the horned god. And so I kind of get a sort of sense of primal fatherhood, a deep connection with nature and animals, that sort of feeling. But it also represents pride and independence and inner strength. And in the Ogham or Ogham, however you pronounce it, the stag is related to the birch tree and the number one. So it's very auspicious to draw this card at the beginning of projects, and this really represents dignity and just a lot of pride and independence and a lot of inner strength, and that's a great card to get right now. Okay, so the Ghosts and Spirits Tarot deck. This is a really interesting deck. And I'll probably be using the little white book with this one because the cards themselves depict specific stories. So sometimes it might be helpful to read about those stories. So I will be using the little white book with this deck. Okay, so in the morning we have the High Priestess. Next, we have the Knight of Wands. Then we have the Tower. And finally, the last card, we have the Five of Cups. And that makes a lot of sense coming right after the Tower. I'm going to put this right here so we can see it. Okay, so the first card, the High Priestess here, this is Sybil, the Greek and Roman legend, the enchantress and famous oracle. So Sybil guided Aeneas through the land of the dead and enabled him to return to the living. So she kind of interweaves the energies of past lives and future events. Uh, so she shows a pathway to clarity and a listen and advice to listen to your inner voice and to pay attention to your intuition, inner wisdom. And I also thought it was interesting to get this card along with the stag, because the stag very much makes me think of the god, whereas the high priestess is often represented by the goddess. You could also use the empress to represent the goddess, but I also get a lot of goddess energy from the high priestess, um, and and I think it's interesting to have the two cards next to each other. So it's kind of this almost mother and father figure, you know, um, that sort of archetypal energy. Um, and so I feel like there's a lot of energies from above, if that makes sense here. And it doesn't necessarily have to be spiritual, but a lot of energies coming from a higher place. maybe even boss-related energies. So that's the sort of feeling I get with this, and I also connected the fact that these are both talking about inner strength and paying attention to intuition, following your gut, that sort of feeling. So that's something we're seeing right off the bat, a connection with the morning card with the animal card. Okay, so around lunchtime, we have the Knight of Wands. And this is Hiku of Hawaii, the Hawaiian hero or demigod who traveled to the land of the dead to bring back his wife. And I am going to read the passage from the Little White Book here to really show what this is talking about. And this is the Little White Book for this deck. It says Hiku was a Hawaiian hero or demigod who traveled to the land of the dead to bring back his wife, Kawela. Hiku canoed to the edge of the sea, where he was lowered into an abyss on a vine rope. The eyes, the eyes of curious spirits watched as his wife's spirit joined him for a delightful swing. When Hiku signaled his friends to pull the vine rope back up, his wife attempted to escape by transforming into a butterfly, but Hiku quickly captured her and carried her to the surface. When the butterfly united with the corpse, spirit and body merged. Kawela returned to consciousness. The edge of the ocean surface represents restrictive thinking. The edge of the ocean surface here. It represents restrictive thinking. The lowering into the abyss parallels creative thought that are processes that are exploring deeper waters of the unconscious. And the advice here is to be prepared for some adventure ahead. You may receive news of an upcoming trip, a change of venue, or an opportunity to exercise your creative potential in unexpected ways. And that was an interesting story. So the story had a lot to do with transformation and rebirth, and being helped along that path. Um, and and it's kind of a creative rebirth too, because the Knight of Wands typically represents putting creative thoughts and ideas and inspiration into something productive. It's kind of it's creative help and insight and putting it into motion. So that's what we have going on around lunchtime. So in the early evening around sunset, we have the Tower. So here we have the Fall of the House of Usher, which is from Edgar Allan Poe. And I'm going to read from the booklet here just to give a better idea of what this is talking about. I'll put this right here as I'm reading. In Edgar Allan Poe's horror story, a sympathetic friend visits Roderick Usher, who is suffering from a mental disorder. Usher's twin sister, Madeline, wanders about in a trance-like state. Usher tells his friend that she has died, so together they place her in a vault. During a violent storm, a crash is heard below, and a door flies open, revealing the ghastly sight of his bloody sister. She collapses on her panic-stricken brother, who dies under the weight of fear. The friend flees and watches as the house crumbles into a heap. The house is a metaphor for mental turmoil. Anguished faces can be seen in the rocks. Anguished faces can be seen in the rocks. Walls and sky, indicating that all is not what it may seem. The sudden crash of the structure destroys illusion and forces change. Disaster may be heading your way. You will be forced to confront the sudden changes that will be thrust upon you. Okay, so that's what we have going on here. A sort of a mental anguish. So it's interesting that we start off the day on a very positive note and kind of following your own intuition, but also kind of getting guidance and creative help. But something goes awry around sunset, and we really see things crumbling here, and uh, and you know it's not necessarily a happy thing. It's, endings aren't always bad, but here we have an ending that something that we didn't want to end. But endings are just beginnings. So it doesn't necessarily mean um, horrible things will happen, but something that you didn't quite want to end, or something sudden, a sudden change that kind of disrupts everything is what's going on here. And it's interesting that we get the Five of Cups after that. Before I go into the mythological story of whatever this card is, the Five of Cups represents mourning after a loss, and here we have that loss. So here we're dealing with that loss, and this card is Liba and Guntum, and I actually have no idea what that is, so I am going to read from the book just to see what story this is talking about here. Okay, here we go. Five of Cups. Okay, so this is Liba and Guntram. The story of Falkenberg, the beautiful young Liba, uh, is engaged to a handsome knight named Guntram. Forced to leave town on business, Guntram promised to return to wed his beloved Liba. On the way home, he got lost and took shelter in a castle where a castle um took shelter in a castle. I lost my place. Where he was seduced into a betrothal by the castle's owner's daughter. After she had slipped a ring on his finger, she revealed her true form as a corpse. Guntram galloped back to his Liba, hoping that their wedding would break the curse. It was not to be. At the altar, Guntram fell gasping as the ghost materialized in full bridal regalia. But before succumbing to his terrible fate, Guntram married his true love, Liba, embracing her as he lay dying. The corpse's icy stare is void of emotion. The mists of the garment attach her to the underworld and ensnare Guntram's soul in her deathly grasp. Be careful not to get entangled in situations that you will regret later. If you do fall victim to folly, find a way to get back on track. And that, I think, that's excellent to have right after the tower, because it makes total sense to be basically dealing with the consequences of whatever situation went awry here. And here we're dealing with that. And the advice is to, in the future, to not get caught up in things that that have a high probability of collapsing, and to find your way out of that situation. Okay, so that is today's reading for February 10th. And thank you so much for watching, and blessed be.